Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I'm your host, Francie. Today we're joined by Kyle, and we have Brandon, aka Tesla Flex, joining us today. Thank you for joining. Brandon is here because he's, of course, a Tesla expert and a fellow Coloradan, but also he's just wrapped his Tesla Y and has some interesting, we might say, conspiracy theories about this. And we're specifically getting together to talk about the recent Tesla vehicle wrap options that have just come available. So, how did we find this out? Was there a big announcement or did it just kind of show up online?
Yeah, just online. I saw Whole Mars blog tweet about it, and he beat Sawyer Merritt, who's normally the guy who breaks all the Tesla news. So, Brandon, how did you hear about it? Francie, maybe you can pull up a screenshot of what we're talking about.
Sure will.
So my friend James, who has edits some of my videos, he actually sent me the thing, and then he sent me the thing on Twitter X and texted me. He said to check my DM. So I was just like looked at it, and right there popped up. He gives me a lot of Tesla news, but yeah, it's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, so basically what Tesla has done is they are now saying we will change the color of your very oddly 2023 Tesla Model 3 or 2023 Tesla Model Y only. We're going to run through everything we know about this wrap, the locations where Tesla is doing it, and all of the weird intricacies of the wrap. Pricing, is it a good value, bad value? I want to talk about all of that. But it's something, Brandon, like so many Tesla owners wrap their cars. It's really become something where I think the reason is the Tesla is like the first car people have been into for technology enthusiasts who are just getting into cars. And there's not really an engine tune or anything crazy that you can do. So wrapping the car is a way that people can easily personalize it. And wraps typically for a full vehicle standard wrap cost anywhere between, I don't know, 4,000 and 7,000, depending on out there. Wouldn't you say that's about average, at least here in Colorado?
Yeah, I mean you can get like if you just want the vinyl and nothing else, it's around 4,000, 4,500. But some material is going to be way more expensive than others.
Yeah, certainly. And so I did a little bit of research into this. So I want to talk about like the different levels that they're offering. But what's interesting is they're first off saying you have to live in California because only two service centers are performing this particular one. And I have that down somewhere on this particular one, which is the Tesla Service Center, including West Covina, California, and Carlsbad, are the only two Tesla service centers offering this today. So it sounds a bit like a pilot project. And they say it'll take roughly 1 week for them to wrap your car. The price is quite high. I want to discuss that. And there are no loaner vehicles available during this week. So you drop off the car and they say, we are not providing you a loaner. So what's up with that? So Brandon, can you, because you have had your cars wrapped, you've done some wrapping yourself as well. What's that typical process like?
So you basically it's pretty labor intensive, which is a lot of the cost I've really learned because the material itself isn't usually that expensive for like the whole cost of the wrap. But basically they start by taking the whole car apart and you have to do it very carefully. I mean, there's some parts you can damage, but of course I can like break some clips. But realistically, you take it apart and then you make sure it's like all the panels are really clean. You get like pretty much everywhere where the material would peel up essentially, and then you wrap over the car and you have to just kind of cut very carefully. It's pretty like intricate process. And as I was watching my Model Y get wrapped, like it definitely they take their time because it's something that you don't want to mess up panels all the time. So I mean, the whole process is it's fun to watch, but also like you can see why it's pretty expensive. And honestly, I don't think the price is too far off from like unfair.
Yeah, that's actually something I totally agree with. So I'm just looking here at like what the type of wrap and everything that they're doing here. So the first is that they're saying that this is not only a clear wrap, you can do a clear and clear gloss or clear satin. So that would just be paint protection film, if you will. So it's not necessarily a wrap. This is self-healing PPF, which is significantly more expensive in general than a traditional vinyl wrap. And if you're choosing not to do the clear wrap, they're actually also wrapping all of the door sills, which is extremely intricate. And that takes a long time. And so that way, when you open the door, let's say you have a red Model 3 and you change it to forest green with the wrap, it's going to appear forest green on the inside, which I think is fascinating. But some of these weird like restrictions about it needing to be a 2023 Model 3 and Model Y, what's up with that, Brandon? Because there's no differences in the cars, right?
I mean, I think maybe it's just because they don't wanna deal with sensors, and, they did remove the sensors last year, so I'm thinking maybe that's part of it, because when you do wrap a car with sensors, you kind of have to be pretty careful around it. You have to also heat it a lot to kind of get it in there, or else it can kinda mess with the actual sensor itself, but I don't know, like, I didn't know the door sills got wrapped too, so for that price, that is definitely pretty good price, honestly.
Yeah, so Francie, you're actually on that page that I just sent to you. Can you scroll down a little bit?
Yeah.
And if you scroll down slightly, we'll be able to see like the installation process. So the first is what colors are available. So let's take a look at that top one, and we can run through each of these points just so everyone understands. So there's clear gloss and clear satin. We are unsure what film they're using at this point. My guess would be XPEL, but maybe they found another company out there. XPEL has just started to work with automakers directly. For example, they have a partnership with Rivian where you can, through Rivian, purchase paint protection film, clear or glossy, excuse me, glossy or satin through them. And the colors that are available, which I believe are paint protection film, it's just the next tick down on that one, Francie. It would be not just a color change, but a color protection film. Have you heard of that, Brandon?
Yeah, so it was pretty uncommon up until recently, but there's some that are like Flexi Shield, I think it's called, and I mean it's starting to get more popular because people with vinyl wraps, like the material is pretty thin, so it can get damaged. And you saw my Model X, like the front of it got pretty beat up, and if that was a
Yeah.
thicker film, it would have protected a lot better. So
Totally agree.
yeah,
So there's one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 colors available. Forest green seems to be my favorite so far, but plenty of them out there. Let's go through the installation process. So if you own one of these cars and you live in California, you'll be able to schedule them. How long will it take? And what I think is interesting is they're not guaranteeing a time, but they're saying anywhere between 5 to 7 days, and they are not providing a loaner vehicle, but they are wrapping the door jambs. So we're talking most of these colors are around $8,000 to have a wrap done. I think 7,000 to 9,000 was the range, somewhere around there. Do we know the exact pricing on that?
the highest I saw was 8,000 for the Crimson Red.
8,000? Okay, could be,
Yeah,
and that includes, installation, of course, with so just taking a look here, it looks like, yep, 8,000 would be for glacier blue, satin rose gold, forest green, ceramic white, and crimson red. The only 2 colors that are slightly less expensive are satin stealth black and slip gray. Slip gray is like a nardo gray, it looks really good. And then I believe the non-color changing ones are probably 7,500 or 7,000. I just think it's so cool that everyone online, the initial response is, "This is so expensive. This is crazy." But when you factor that they're doing the door jams and that this isn't just a wrap, it's PPF, the price actually seems reasonable. Now, the big question is someone buying a new Model 3 going to spend the coin 8 grand, 7 grand to have their car done by Tesla to be wrapped? I don't know. I don't think there's any warranty benefit here for that. Perhaps there is. But Brandon, would you suggest someone go to Tesla for this, or should they do that aftermarket at a separate shop?
I think it really just depends on what you want. If you want something that you know is gonna be done, like, pretty much perfectly and you're okay paying that extra amount, then I would probably go through Tesla. If you're gonna especially if you're gonna keep the car for a long time, like, I keep mine, like, not even a year, so for me, it makes more sense to do vinyl, but for other people, if they're gonna keep the car 4 or 5 years and they wanna have a cool different color, then I would go with that.
Yeah, I actually totally agree. I think considering this isn't just a wrap, it's the paint protection film that's colored. They're doing the jams. It's going to be done by Tesla. It just feels a little bit better. You're not dealing with the sketchy third party shop. There's some fantastic wrap shops out there, but then there's also some really sketchy wrap shops out there. And you just never know unless you have someone with personal experience or know someone in the industry. So here it goes to a trusted place. Tesla's done the research. Now, we have to also acknowledge this is a fairly limited rollout, just new Model 3 and Y, just out of these 2 service centers. But Brandon, you have a theory that they could be ramping up for something more special. I'd love to hear what that is.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like eventually the Cybertruck will be out whenever they, deliver those. And not everyone's going to want the stainless steel. So I think this is kind of maybe a test to see how well they can do it and if they can put it at other service centers because they do have space at a lot of service centers, and the newer service centers they're building are a lot bigger. So I think instead of offering maybe a color for the Cybertruck, just having the stainless steel and letting people wrap it or get it wrapped by them would actually just create more revenue from them. And if they can do it pretty efficiently, then it's good for them.
I actually totally agree. I think we're all pretty much under the understanding that Tesla's not going to have a paint shop for the Cybertruck. At least this is the rumor. And the rumor has been maybe they will offer wraps. And I think you're totally spot on. This is them testing out the wrapping process, trying to understand where the hiccups are in this rollout, starting in a large market but small scale, and then eventually going up to Cybertruck. Cybertruck's, of course, going to be a lot bigger than Model 3 and Y, but might be easier to wrap with all those flat
Oh,
panels
100%
everywhere.
and easier. Yeah.
So do you think they're going to charge a lot more money when they I mean, this is all speculation, of course, but what do you think would be a reasonable, considering this is a premium film that's color and protective, what do you think they're going to charge to do Cybertruck wraps?
I don't think it would be too much more. Maybe at most like 10,000, and that probably would just be for the most expensive color. But I mean, if you think about it, like if they could roll that into like if you could basically add that on when you're ordering the truck or configuring the truck and roll it into a loan, I think a lot of people would do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a relatively big business for them. I think they're going to potentially put a lot of aftermarket shops out of business, or at least force them to lower the prices here, which I'm always up for competition. I think it gets quite interesting. It gets super exciting. And so there we go. I totally agree with you. This is all clear as day preparation for what they're wanting to do for color change on the Cybertruck. Whether or not that will expand to other markets, I think probably determines on how well this pilot project works. So great idea. Can't thank you enough for joining. Francie, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, Tesla hasn't offered this up until now. I do think it's interesting that if you do get it wrapped, Tesla says that they won't remove it. So you will have to go to that third party if you want it removed. But hopefully, if you're getting it on there, I guess you know what you're doing and you wouldn't want to get it removed. But with the Cybertruck look, I think this is an interesting concept that they would be able to package this in with the purchase if you were to get the Cybertruck to personalize it and really be able to do that at large scale. So it is an interesting thing. Obviously, it does seem to be a little bit small scale, which could, point to a bit of a experiment within Tesla. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I do like the colors. I think the protective layer is pretty key in terms of if you're going to offer something like this, just why not? And yeah, pretty cool to see from Tesla. You make good points about the price. I mean, it does seem like there is a lot of labor involved and it's pretty comprehensive application. So pretty interesting. Yeah. Thanks for hopping on, Brandon.
Of course.
Yeah. So make sure to check out Brandon's stuff too if you haven't already. He, knows a lot about the Teslas out there. So thanks for joining us back on the Out of Spec podcast. Let us know what you think about the new Tesla wrap option. Do you think that the Cybertruck is really going to be able to be wrapped in, would it be these colors? Would it be others? Interesting stuff going on at Tesla. Of course, let us know what else you'd like us to cover. And if you're enjoying the podcast, feel free to subscribe. Doesn't hurt anyone, and it definitely helps us. So see you next time on the Out of Spec podcast. Bye.